Hey everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. Okay, so there exists in the turntable vinyl market a gap that wasn't there about 3 years ago, and that gap was caused by the situation that we've been going through since late 2019, early 2020, if you catch my drift. And what it has done, it has totally annihilated the pricing on turntables to the point where decent entry-level equipment that was in the upper 90s, low 100s is now pushed into the 200 plus territory. And it's hard to get into even an entry-level system below $200. Crosley has this new system called an Aria. Should fill that gap. Let's check it out.
This is Record-ology.
This is a complete system in a box for $149. So let's see if this is a good way to play records on a budget, or if you're upgrading from a suitcase player, perhaps if you just want to get started with something that'll do it all. Maybe this is the ticket, maybe it isn't, but we're going to find out one way or another. It does come with speakers, and they are here. So we'll take a look at these in closer detail after we get done unboxing it. And the turntable itself is right here. We've got a power supply, owner's manual, and a cable. All right, let's go ahead and see what we got. Okay, the speakers are pretty hefty. I mean, they've got some good weight to them. We've got a wood type of material on the side here. It looks sharp, this sort of gray heather fabric, I think they call it. It's a nice contemporary look. I do like it. The drivers, right there. I love the way they do the dust caps with a sort of recessed piece there instead of it being a domed dust cap. We've got nice thick rubber surrounds and tweeter up top there. I could tell you right now that's real just by looking at it, but we'll verify that. These are 25 watt speakers that will serve a couple of purposes. One, they are the turntable speakers, obviously, but they also will allow you to connect the device via Bluetooth. This has a radio built in, et cetera, et cetera. So the idea is this is sort of an all-in-one sound system. We've got a clear cord, insulated cord, and an RCA connection for the speaker itself. There is no volume control on the speaker. That will all be done from the turntable. Okay, here is the turntable itself. It is pretty lightweight, as you can see. I'm able to easily manipulate it with one hand there. Let's go ahead and take the packaging off, take a closer look. Now this is where things get really interesting. By the way, this is a very small turntable. This is the smaller platter. I think that's probably maybe an 8.5 inch platter. We've seen this mechanism before with a little asterisk on that, and I'll get to that in a minute. But that just goes to show you how small this is. This is very compact, and that's not a bad thing. That's really cool. We've got the design elements of the wood and the matching fabric to the speakers carried over to this device as well. This is your main interface right here. So we've got a digital volume knob. We've got transport buttons, a mode switch, a power switch, and a couple indicator lights as well. Looking on the back, we've got a 15 volt power supply terminal there. We have the line input so you can connect other devices. Like I said before, this does accept Bluetooth. It's a Bluetooth receiver. So you would connect your phone, your tablet to this device to play music from your phone onto this device through the speakers. There's also RCA outputs. Kind of interesting how they do this. We'll get to that in a minute, but that's pretty much it for connections and controls on this device. And here is the bottom. There is really not much here except for these little rubberized plastic feet. And I like the fit and finish of this. I don't feel like it's just masonite spray painted like so many products these days are. I mean, this feels like it has reasonable quality when it comes to, like I said, the fit and finish. This is fairly lightweight, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Let's take a look at this mechanism next. This will be a fairly common looking mechanism right out of the gate. This is very similar to what you see in a lot of portables and items that have been released that include magnetic cartridges. It's a belt-driven turntable, by the way. However, this one is a departure from that basic design because it has a ceramic, which is really, really interesting. No doubt this is part of the reason why that this unit is priced as low as it is, $149. So this has a different tone arm and a different cartridge and head shell than we see with this mechanism in the past. So this is very interesting. I had heard through actually one of my colleagues here on YouTube that he got wind that they were starting to do this. And when this product became available, I was very curious and interested to confirm that, and I'm really excited to test it out. So we've got what appears from a specification standpoint to be, good speakers. Time will tell, and we'll test them out all here together. But how will this system sound given that it has a ceramic cartridge? Again, if you are new here, a ceramic cartridge is usually less desirable than a moving magnetic cartridge. They tend to sound more harsh. This will track heavier. The ceramic cartridge, this is like a Chuo-Denshi clone. These cartridges require somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 6 grams of downforce versus a magnetic, which can be 1.5 to 4.5 grams. So it will put down more pressure. Doesn't mean it'll damage your vinyl, but it will wear them out quicker. So that's something to consider. That being said, for a beginner, for a novice, this still may be the ticket. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit just to reiterate. This is indeed 3 speeds. You can play 78s on it. And if you want to get super technical, you can upgrade the stylus, which is housed within this red piece right here, to one that will get the best sound quality out of a 78, because a 78 has a wider groove than a more contemporary micro groove 45 or LP 12-inch vinyl record. So it won't do any damage, won't have any harm playing 78s the way it is, but the sound will be a lot less desirable than if you put on a proper stylus onto there. Also here, you'll see the auto stop switch, which basically means when it gets to the end of the record, does it spin indefinitely or does it automatically stop? We also have a little left shelf here. So if you remove the clip here, and you can use this little cueing lever here to raise and lower the stylus gently. One of the complaints that I always want to touch on really quickly with these types of devices is they tend to skip, especially on pop and rap, things that are heavily modulated. Oftentimes just pushing down on this lift shelf here gets it out of the way, and that fixes a lot of the skipping because it kind of has a tendency to hang up there if you just lower it based on gravity. Because watch this. If I flick that down, it's good that it goes slow because you want a nice gentle descend, but what happens is sometimes it doesn't go down far enough, so just gently pushing the rest of the way down means that tone arm is free to play the record without having any skips, and that really does fix that problem 9 times out of 10. We've also got a handy dandy little 45 adapter. Somebody told me the other day, they're like, most 45s have a small hole. Well, in the UK that's true, but here in the US, almost all 45s have the large hole. And if you find yourself with a 45 or otherwise record with a large hole and a turntable, you need an adapter. This one comes with a built-in one. So that's good. This platter, by the way, like I said, is belt driven. The motor will be right about here. The belt will go underneath the platter somewhere in that neighborhood. It's got 3 rubber pieces here that make contact with your record. This does not require or support a platter mat. They do make smaller platter mats. I've seen that done before. But you really don't need it. If you're obsessed with the idea of a platter mat, yes, you could go out and get one that would fit this, but you really don't need it because, again, the only thing touching are those 3 rubber contacts, and that does just fine. Keep in mind, this is entry level. This is beginner stuff. We're not talking high end at this point. So for a beginner, by the looks of everything, this is all you would need. But the big question, what does it sound like? So let me get this connected and we'll give it a listen, find out. Good time to mention, by the way, here is what the included aux cable looks like, although a lot of us have these laying around the house, but it's nice they include that. That's to connect an external device to the aux in on the back. And then the power supply as well. It is a wall wart power supply. Some people like these, some people don't. For this purpose, for this use case, it'll be just fine. They do include, obviously, an instruction manual and a warranty card as well. All right, I've got everything set up here. I've got a nice record for us to listen to. One thing I wanted to mention about those connections in the back is the RCA outputs are line outputs for connecting this to a bigger sound system, like bigger speakers that are powered or another stereo system with an aux input. It also happens to be the same place that these speakers are connected to via those RCA jacks. So that tells me that is not just a line level signal. Actually, it's a variable output because you can control the volume to those speakers from here. That's very interesting, and also something you should be very cautious about if you connect this to a bigger sound system, because if you're connected to a line input and you crank the volume here, it could potentially send too much line voltage down the line into whatever sound system that may be. That perhaps would bear further testing, but I just wanted to mention that. Okay, let's go ahead and place a record onto our platter. I am going to press this button to power it up. It does have an FM radio built in, so I'm going to press the mode switch until we get to vinyl. There's also Bluetooth connectivity. We're flashing green, and if I keep pressing that, what happens? We go to blue, so that's Bluetooth mode, and then back to FM radio. Okay, so 3 modes, and flashing green must be vinyl. So what we're going to do is raise the tone arm. We are going to rotate across. If you are new to vinyl, make sure you remove this from the cartridge. It just slides off. People will play their records with this, and obviously they're not going to make any sound, or good sound, I should say, if they do that. I'm going to also run my little carbon fiber brush over this record. Now, electronics that are new should have some what's called burn-in time, basically an opportunity for things to get settled in to perform at its best. Speakers as well. You don't really want to plug it in straight out of the box and expect it to be at peak performance. It may take, a certain number of hours. I think speakers are usually 10 hours of playtime before they've reached their full potential. And we don't have the luxury of doing that on this channel for first reviews. This may be, appearing on the channel in the future for another video. But I wanted to test the experience, and I always do, of what that consumer will get when they get home, unbox the record player, super excited. What will it sound like? And this is what it will sound like. Okay, my initial thoughts are it doesn't sound half bad at all. I mean, for a ceramic cartridge, it seemed pretty full range. This is pretty good 60s era jazz recording here that has, a pretty full dynamic range. By the way, this is a local Denver recording, recorded at the famous Trocadero at Elitch Gardens, which no longer stands, but was a very famous big band era ballroom of the day. Anyway, sounded good to my ears. Yes, it does sound like a ceramic cartridge, a little harsher, not quite as high fidelity as a magnetic. But that being said, what I heard was very acceptable sound. Now, this will bear further testing with different genres, different records. And again, perhaps in the future we'll have time to do that. In this initial review, though, I wanted to kind of give an overview to everything, my thoughts. So far, $150 seems pretty good, pretty fair. I do want to check, validate those are real tweeters. And if you're new, one of the reasons why I'm saying that is sometimes companies will use decorative tweeters because it looks like a better speaker, because it would be a better speaker if it had a tweeter. And sometimes they'll put fake tweeters on. So we want to make sure that is, in fact, a real two-way speaker. And I want to verify that. I'm not sure off the top of my head. Next thing I want to test out is the radio. I'm going to press and hold this, and it should scan through all the stations, programming itself for all of the active stations that exist in my area. Okay, that took about 2 minutes for it to program itself turning this back up again, you press and hold the forward skip, and it goes on to the next station. And you just kind of press and hold. Press and hold on this key to go through the stations.
Foreclosure here. You should go where I go when I need to pick up a couple of good sticks.
Yeah, it seems to function pretty dang good, actually. The sound was good. You know, some signal, reception issues, but, it depends on buildings in my area, how far I am away from the transmitter, et cetera, et cetera. FM only, a scan radio. This is sort of an added feature to kind of make this system an all-in-one sound system, not just a record player. So far, though, this is appearing to be a quite decent out-of-the-box performing, I hate using the term all-in-one, but it is certainly a everything-in-a-box solution for playing your records. You get an FM radio. And next, we need to take a look at the line inputs and the Bluetooth. Yeah, line input sounds good. You have to turn the volume up pretty high on this, but the sound is good, clean, and full. Okay, we're going to run some tests on it. Right out of the gate, though, I can tell you, based on sound, based on listening, this is not half bad. I'm surprisingly impressed with this. Let's go ahead and test a couple of things. I want to test the tracking force. I want to test the speed. And I do want to look inside one of these speakers as well. And it's a little lighter than I thought. I'm going to make sure that shelf is pushed down, like I was mentioning earlier. So we're just under 5 grams. That's a little bit light, actually, for this cartridge. It's probably okay. You don't want to go too light, because too light of tracking does more damage than too heavy of tracking in some cases. That being said, this tracks right about the high end of an AT3600L. Okay, looking right here for 33 RPM, we can see that it is a tad bit fast, but nothing too out of control there. Moving up here, 45 is a little closer, definitely a little closer to being accurate. And then finally, 78 is a hair fast as well. Overall, I'm pleased with that speed consistency on this type of a unit. Okay, and now to find out if these tweeters are real, I'm just removing the last screw here. Gentle as possible here. I really think these are real, but it'll be interesting to verify. Yeah, these are real. I'm not going to pull it any further than that, but if I zoom in there, you can see the driver and the wiring there. So it's in there pretty snug, so I'm going to put this right back. But yeah, real tweeters. That's as it should be. Okay, closing thoughts on this. This is a winner all the way around. $149, it's a no-brainer. This is a fantastic entry-level system. This is a fantastic step up from a suitcase or an all-in-one. For $149, there's a lot of value here. Speaking of value, we are going for perceived value here. We're not going for brand equity. And I think that was very wise of Crosley to do that. There's some very, very smart cost-saving measures in play here that bring this cost down to where it's at. Most notably, the ceramic cartridge versus the magnetic. But as we demonstrated, it sounds fine. It sounds fine. I would argue that it does not sound that much different than a magnetic would with this same overall setup. We've also omitted a display on the front. That was, you got a couple display lights here. You don't need a display. You know what I mean? You don't need something to say phono or FM. That would be added cost, which would, translate to the end user's added cost as well. I like it. I think it's a winner. Link in the description below. Thank you guys for watching. Thumbs up, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.